Good day, good morning, and welcome to my first Q&A on this YouTube channel, the Xenomorph Productions YouTube channel, which is sort of the name I've used for my studio for a good 20 years. Anyway, so I got 11 questions that I shall answer, so let's just dig right in. Nicholas Wynyard asks, what's your favorite piece of gear? Now, that's a strange question to ask these days in terms of the fact that so many things I do is in the box or in the computer as we speak. So in that sense, I think I would have to say the computer would be my favorite piece of gear because these days we've reached a level where the quality of what you can do in a computer is just mind-blowing compared to 10, 15, 20 and more years ago. So although that's the easy answer, I guess, but I really believe that's the correct answer for me because anything I can think of I can do in the computer, whether through external sources, and it's just that there are no limits these days. You can do anything. So, and you don't even need the fastest, biggest, best computer or anything like that. Just get yourself a laptop. Hell, even use a cell phone these days. Like, I've got a program on my smartphone called Caustic or something, which is like Cubase Lite, and you just go to town with that. I mean, if it's a specific instrument, I would say, I don't know. That's a hard question. I would have to say the computer, just because it's, the days of, oh, you're making music on a computer. Those days are over. And I think, yeah, just because of what you can do in a computer, so that would be the ultimate answer for me. Sure, cheating a bit, but honestly, yeah, the computer, just because that's where everything is. Adrianovsky asks, for me, the most important thing is how to correctly tune the kick to a bass line. Yeah, I mean, that is important in one sense, yet also I'm the kind of guy that says it doesn't matter. Although I have paid a price for having that attitude, listening to some older mixes of mine. I came from a time where tuning drums to me seemed like a thing that, oh, you do that with live drums, like, on a real drum kit. Turns out, though, doing that with your electronic drums is, I recommend it, but is it necessary? Yeah. It's like, does it sound good? That's what it comes down to. Now, what does sound good? That's a good question. You have to, use your ears. That's as a cliche as that sound. But you can use tools to see, if your kick and bass lines are friends. Like, say, the Pro Q3 is great to see, not just hear the wave. And you can quickly see if there's any conflicting, waveforms or standing waves, which could cause phase issues, which would be also a part of that question. Make sure your phase is good, meaning the bass and the kick are not causing your phase issues. Um, do I recommend tuning the kick though? Yeah, I mean, it does sound good, but then again, you have chord changes. What are you doing there, right? So I say instead of focusing too much on tuning the kick perfectly, mathematically, whatever, to your bass line or vice versa, just shape the kick, or sidechain it with the bass line, thus removing the problem altogether. I know a lot of people don't like the EDM sidechain thing. Well, there's subtle ways of doing it where you don't really hear it working, but it will just really help your mix. Meaning, say, you just sidechain the lowest end of your bass with the kick, so you give the kick the room where it needs to be. It could be a narrow band, from 30 to 50 hertz, 30 to 80 hertz, depending on the key of the song. But if you can tune your kick to the key, go for it. Go for the root note, like the fundamental, right? And C. Or the way around it too, which is where, good song arrangement kicks in, is how to program the bass line to work with the kick. So that would be a way to think too. Say for EBM and industrial, where you got those 16 notes thing, maybe try removing that note that is where the kick is. Because when the whole song is done, chances are you might not even hear it. So there's a thing. But If you can tune it, go for it. Uh, just don't be like anal about it, because at the end of the day, you finish your song, and I'd say focus on the phase and the choices of sound and how you program it to make it a team. Like the bass line and the kick needs to be really good buddies, tuned or not. Just again, use the ears. Like click phase buttons to see if suddenly your kick comes out better. That's a good one. Okay, now James Hus Hustra Hustastra. Sorry, hard to get that name right. He says, there are a few tutorials on industrial music out there. I guess that's true. Well, welcome to this tutorial and this channel, and please check back in. I'll most certainly do some industrial music specific tutorials for those interested. I do also will start offering one-on-one like courses, like an hour thing if you want to learn something really specific. So just stay tuned. I will get more back into that once I figure out the details of that thing. But thank you for commenting on that, and I would be happy to fill that gap. Now, Philip Placowski, you sound like you're from Poland. Nazdrovia. What happened to the new Coil album, and will it ever gonna be released? Or possible some new singles? Yeah, I get that question frequently. Officially, I sort of stepped away from the whole Coil machine because I don't know, I just had to focus on my own work. I had to dig deeper into the ventures that I am currently involved in. I mean, we did that single. I don't know how long that was ago now, but yes, there was talks about an album, and as much as I would like to do that, I just felt at the time certain parameters, certain situations were not in place where I felt comfortable to do that. And I feel until everybody on board would be on the same page in terms of the sound, the style, I just stepped away politely with no regrets, no hard feelings. Um, will there ever be an album? Uh, who knows? Never say never, right? All right. Anton Nikolic asks, any advice for an aspiring new musician? How can I get my music to be heard by more people? For an aspiring new musician, I would say, first of all, patience. Have thick skin, very thick skin. Do not take everything personal. Um, don't listen so much to friends and family telling you, "Oh wow, you're so good. This is great. This is the coolest thing ever." Like, be thankful, but these people will always tell you the nice things, the things you want to hear. So listen more to those who have no reason to say nice things to you, because you want honesty. As nice it is to hear your mom thinks, "Wow, that song is great." Well, that's nice, thank you, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. And be the best you can at your craft. Like, are you a guitar player? You better be going and playing that guitar right now. Are you a bass player? Are you a drummer, programmer, singer? You name it. You make sure you do everything you can to be the best at what you do, because then you will become undeniable. Whether or not people like your style or something, that's irrelevant. And have a goal, like have a specific path. You want to release an album? Okay, how can you release an album? What do you need to make it happen? Just go systematically through that. Do you want to get signed to a label? Okay, start sending out songs. Finish stuff. Make sure you finish your songs. Talk only goes so far. I'm a musician. I do. Okay, let's hear it. Oh, you don't have anything? Well, okay. Don't be a talker. Be a doer. How to get your music heard? Well, luckily for you, we live in a time and age where you can fart for 5 minutes and post it on YouTube and have it go viral and heard by everybody in the world. an hour later, technically. Um, well, how to be heard, you definitely would have to stand out because there's so much music out there right now, so many talented people, whether they're singers, songwriters, producers, engineers, you name it. So as intimidating that can sound, you really got to find your own thing, your own sound, whatever that is. So as important and healthy I think it is to learn from bands you appreciate and admire, and at times even borrow ideas, but always strive to make your own sound, to create your own style, if you may. Just go for it. No rules, man. Just go for it. Dr. Zauz81 says, or asks, when will the world get a new Icon Coil album? Also, a Komor Kommando album. Yes. As I answered it 2 questions ago, I have no involvement in Icon of Coil prop currently. So when or what or if, I have no clue. I've done my part. I just decided to walk away. Komor Kommando, yeah. You and the label wants to know. um, I'm working on it. Got a folder here with ideas. Sort of doing what I did with the first album, like creating ideas and sort of where that album should go. And when I do find time, I will start actually writing the songs. And like, there's a folder with plenty of ideas. I just feel I have to write it the way I want it to sound. And I'm in the middle of developing new techniques and new approaches to writing songs. So I'm actually pretty excited to do this because, A, it's been too long, and B, most of the time these days I work on music for other people or for purposes that are not per se like a band thing. So it'd be cool to actually find some time and get to, dig into a second Komor Kommando album. It is coming, I promise. Thank you for your patience. All right, next one. Luke Truget. Do you miss playing live or at gigs, or do you prefer, as you have got older, to stay in the studio and work on behind the scenes kind of things? Another question, outside the music you create, is there any other genre you listen to chill out to, or just, listen to music? Have I really listened to what people wouldn't expect? I already know you are into Backstreet Boys. Yeah, I know where you got that info from. I appreciate a couple of their songs. I don't care their name or style. Um, do I miss playing live gigs? Hell yeah. Playing live is awesome. So much energy. You get the feedback from the fans. It's sort of like the icing on the cake. You spend all these hours, days in and out, working on the music, and then you get to perform it for your fans, old and new. You get to talk to people, get to experience their city, their area. Like there's so much involved in doing shows that I appreciate, for better or worse. But yeah, no, I do miss that, and I've had a few questions about gigs. There's certain elements going on in my life that is making that a bit hard right now, and but we're working on it. I also don't want to just say yes to gigs for the sake of a gig. Like, I want to have new material out, like referring to the Komor Kommando album. I don't want to just go up on stage to play the old songs, without having new material to, you know, promote and enjoy live. Yeah, I do a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff. Like, there's quite a few things that I could not speak of ever, but I've been a busy bee and done a lot of stuff, a lot of production music, a lot of sound design, programming, you name it. I do enjoy that too, because that's a lot where I develop skills, learn new things, help people out. So I enjoy both. Sometimes it's just nice to, wake up, make your coffee, go to bed, go to bed, wake up, make your coffee, and just go down in the studio and jam, get stuff done, work on things, try new tools. So it's kind of like a yin and yang, I think. I like both. Another question is, any genre you listen to outside of what I do? Um, yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of ambient or stuff like Johnny Cash, Audio Slave. I don't know. I tend to listen to music I don't work on more than not, just to step out of the zone of what I do. Often also where I get a lot of cool ideas, or you get that moment where you hear something that is completely unrelated to what you do and you go, whoa, I'm going to try to incorporate that into my own stuff. So in terms of like chilling out, I don't know, I usually listen to audiobooks these days, to be honest, if I'm like just chilling or cleaning the house or whatever. Once in a while I'd put on Slayer, Nitzareb, and bands of that nature if I need to clean. It's good music to get shit done with. All right, thank you for your question. Marcus Vinicius asks, could you show us your studio? What are your computer specs? I could show you my studio. I mean, you can kind of see some of it behind me. To be honest, my studio is mostly computer these days. There's some rack units and keyboards and microphone, guitars, and all that stuff. But my computer specs would be, I'm using a Windows 10 machine, the i7 processor, 3 something hertz, I don't know, 32 gigs of RAM, SSD drives. Like, do yourself a favor, use SSD drives. Yeah, 2 screens, a Moto 828 MK3 sound card that's been using for quite a while. Going to probably upgrade that soon. And Cubase 9.5. That's sort of my main setup. Green667 asks, good to see you're doing a YouTube channel. The question is, what's your favorite mastering suite software right now? Interesting question. I know most people just want that one thing that just is the secret sauce, right? Unfortunately, in reality, that's just not how that works. I mean, there are some good stuff out there, like the Ozone 8, brilliant. I just don't use just one thing. Multiple reasons. Some of it being habits. It's just how I work. Other times it's, excuse me. Other times it's just a combination of different things that different tools, work. So how I do it might not be how you want to do it. What do I use though? Well, I use the Slate, the analog console emulation. I use their overdrives, sometimes the Neve EQ, just to add some top end or low end, things like that. And then always the Pro Q3, just because it's clean, surgical, just to like check the frequency balance, low cut a bit on the sides, things like that. And then saturation. The what's it called? The Black Box HG2. I tend to put that on my master buzz because it just thickens it up and glues it together nicely. I mean, this is all project dependent. There are certain things I don't put on some mixes that I do on others. So it's not like a one question with a one answer. Like, it's so program dependent. I still to this day constantly find myself in a situation where I gotta reach for a different tool than I usually do because that suddenly didn't work. Whether it's the frequency balance of the mix itself, or how dense or not dense it is, the tempo of it. Like, there's so many factors involved. I use the Pro Q compressor just to, like, from the mid range and up, so it just keeps the song snappy. Sometimes the saturation from Isotope Trash 2, and of course the limiter. My preferred limiter these days is FabFilter Pro L2. I just like what it does, and I'm used to it. Again, use what you're used to. That's just something people forget often. Just use the tools that you're familiar with, and get really good at those tools. Like, it almost doesn't even matter today what you use, as long as you know how they work. But if you're gonna like master something and you want like sort of an all-in-one package, so I would say Ozone 8 would be the one to go for, just because of what it's able to do, and the quality is impeccable. So I would say that. But again, project dependent. Never forget that. Don't never do like things by default. Oh, because this is how I do it, and this is no. You got use your ears. You got them for a reason. These are your best friends. Next question. Brad Gallen asks, how do you make your tracks sound big and kick ass? I'm especially thinking of your drop the weapon tracks in particular. One word: saturation, distortion. To explain it deeper. Oh, where do you begin? Like, how do you make them sound big? First of all, like, what is big to you? You're referring my Drop Your Weapons album, so I'll just take that as a reference. Uh, Besides saturation, the sounds themselves are like it's imperative. Use the right sounds, otherwise you're not gonna, it's not gonna sound big. And first of all, whatever rule book, whatever thing people say, oh, don't you can't do that. Don't think that like you have to step outside of the box. You have to think outside the box or whatever. And compression has a lot to do with it. A lot of parallel processing, where I take a bass sound and put a crazy distortion on it, but emphasizing the mid range, and then I mix it into the mix. This would be easier to explain in a dedicated video, to be honest. And don't be afraid to use a limiter. I don't mean like crush it, but there are times where crushing it actually is the only right thing to do. And I would say the most important thing would be parallel process your drum, like a drum bus, like kick, snare, hi-hats, whatever you got going on. Drop all that into its own like effects group channel, or render out the whole drum kit and copy it, and then add some crazy compression on it, like we're talking way over the top kind of stuff, also known as New York compression, I guess. Don't be afraid to experiment with saturation, distortion. Very often I have a parallel chain on off my drum bus going into like a distressor, compressor, and just crunch to, it's almost like so wrong, but you mix that into your mix and your drums go from to go, you get that energy suddenly. The reason you do parallel, that's a hard word for a Norwegian to say, parallel, is because you want to maintain the clarity of the raw tracks. So that's why you do a parallel mix, and you just bring it up where you feel comfortable. And the cool thing about that, you can like automate it so it gets louder in the chorus and then less in the verse. So you're also creating cool dynamics. So you sort of control how much energy do you want. Pretty sweet. Do that with vocals too, all kinds of stuff. Parallel processing and saturation, crazy compression. Like I've done crazy EQ moves going into a compressor just to enhance certain, aspects of the sound, and then just mix it in. I'll definitely do a video about that specifically. Thanks for your question. And the last question from Passion Deranged. Hey man, I'm a huge fan of your Circle of Dust remixes. I think you fit that style perfectly. I'm starting to get into production and you've been a big inspiration. Well, thank you. But I feel like it'll be a long time before I know what I'm doing. So I'm curious to know how long it took you to feel like you can handle on producing in general, and was it ever difficult to get through the beginning stages of not really knowing how to do anything? Some encouragement would mean a lot. Thanks. Well, here's some encouragement. It will take a while. I've been doing this since the late 90s, and I feel just within the last year or so, I'm kind of like feeling like, all right, I understand. Because there's so much to learn, so much to understand, so much to explore, so many tools, so many tricks, and so many secrets that, I mean, again, it depends a lot on, what style you're, working on, but generally speaking, yeah, there's a lot to learn. And I always say, be good at what you do, like be really good at it. Have incredible focus and drive, and just keep learning. Never stop being thirsty to learn. Because if you get that stage, and I get this all the time from people like, oh, you should hear my music, I'm the best, I'll get signed. It's like, okay. It's good to have confidence. Be confident, just don't be a dick. Be humble. And it it took me a good 20 years to finally feel that I'm at a level of skill and knowledge that I feel comfortable with. Something, like finally I get to do the things and sound the way I wanted it 10, 15, 20 years ago. And then by this time now, there's all these new things I've got to figure out. So it never ends. Like, you always learn something, because by the time you learn the thing you wanted to, there's 20 new things like you got to figure out. So a number, how long? Well, 20 years. Like, I listened to stuff I did 5 years ago. I'm just like, oh shit, dude. And that's good though. That's good, because if you feel what you did 10 years ago is the best music ever, you're painting yourself in a corner. Like, always be thirsty to learn more. And yeah, it is difficult. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, this is stuff easy, everyone can do it. Yeah, I mean, everybody can, but I think it becomes it's a matter of how much do you want to, you know. Is this your passion? Is this your drive? Or is this just a thing you want to do because you want to be a cool dude? I'm a musician. All right, do what you want. But I always say, you either get it or you don't. Uh, I'm very blunt with these things. Just fucking, dig in, learn, listen. Like, I spend a lot of time listening to music, analyzing it in headphones, just sitting here in the studio listening. And that through that you understand music, like from the inside out. Listen to how the kick drum sounds. How loud is the bass line? Or, you know what I mean? Like, learn new chords, try different chords, try writing different keys. Like, always try something different than what you're usually doing, because you learn a lot more, and you don't get stuck in the one thing. You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing wrong with being really good at one thing. Just, look at AC/DC, to mention one band. Um, but now it takes a while. Um, Set up some plans. Like, how much time a day do you got to do this? What do you want is a good question. Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to release music? Then this should be your air and water. Like, this, make it everything you are. I think that's the only way to, be, in terms of artists, being an artist or any creative endeavor, whether it's a baker. There's so many creative jobs in the world today. So I'm just saying, put 100% into what you're doing. Don't half-ass it. Never, ever half-ass it. It will come back and bite you right in the ass. Yeah, just get after it and just dig in. Need to learn more about drums? Okay, learn a lot about drums. Videos, or just try it. Do everything you can to be undeniable. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a long time. Anything worthwhile takes time. Just, I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for all your questions, and have a great day. Please subscribe. Please share this. Thank you very much. Peace out.